Chapter 3. Going after Mr. Greenshirt. Out on the street, they stopped and watched the man in the green shirt walking away. "Miss O'Brien's going to be angry," said Andy. "Not everyone's going to the film," replied Mary. "But she thinks you are," said Andy. "Forget about Miss O'Brien," said Mary. "This is important." Mary watched the man. He turned right. Andy and Mary ran after him and turned right too. "Don't get too near him," said Mary. "We don't want him to see us." For 10 minutes they walked about 50 metres behind the man. First there was Trinity College on their left. Then the National Gallery on their right. Next came Merrion Square. There were houses round the square, and trees and gardens in it. The man walked up to the front door of a house, opened the door, and went in. "OK," said Andy. "We can go back now. We've still got time to get to the cinema. The film actually starts at 5:30. "No," said Mary, and took him by the arm. "We're going to wait in the gardens." "Why?" asked Andy. "We can't see him." "But what's he doing there?" asked Mary. "I want to know." Andy was angry, but he didn't say anything. "I can't leave my sister here," he thought. They waited and they waited. After 30 minutes, Andy said, "Come on, Mary. He's not coming out again." "Just 5 more minutes," said Mary. "Please, Andy." Andy started to speak, but just then the front door opened and Mr. Greenshirt came out. He walked into the gardens. "Here he comes," said Mary. Then she saw the look on the man's face. "Oh no," she said. "He's coming over here, and he's angry." The man started to run. "Who are you?" he shouted. "I saw you behind me. Why are you watching me?" "Run," said Mary, and she and Andy turned and started running. Mr. Greenshirt ran after them. "Stop!" he shouted, but they didn't. At the end of the gardens, Mary saw a man in a green and red jacket sitting on a big stone. She ran up to him. "Can you help?" she started to say, but then she stopped. Andy took her arm. "Come on," he said. "That's not a real person, stupid. That's a statue of the famous Irish writer, Oscar Wilde. There's a picture of it in the hotel." They started running again. Mr. Greenshirt was behind them, but he wasn't very fast. "Don't stop," said Andy. They ran out of the gardens and down the street. After 2 or 3 minutes, they stopped and looked back. Mr. Greenshirt wasn't there. Andy looked at Mary. She looked afraid. "It's all right," said Andy. He put his arm round her. "He's much too slow." Andy smiled at his sister. "Come on," he said. "We must go and tell Miss O'Brien."